Hey guys, Bobby Wall here with Octane Baseball. Frank Viola. Frank was a Cy Young Award winner, a World Series MVP. He came and spoke at our summit and discussed old school versus new school thoughts and how to compare and contrast with a lot of interaction with the audience. This one was really fun, so stay tuned.
All right, I got a piece of paper here. What I do is, once I start speaking, I wander all over the place, so just stick with me the best you can. I do want to start with a couple of things. First of all, I commend you for everything that you've done here. As you will find out, I'm very old school. I'm very old. But what you're doing here and the points you made here, which was way over my head, by the way, but what I love is that you individualize it for kids, especially for the young kids coming up. That is so important for parents to know that all these kids are not going to be lumped as a group and be taught the same thing, because that's where the screw-ups occur. So doing it that way, more power to you. You know, having Matty here, having everybody around doing the stuff you do, this is good stuff. And baseball needs more people like this, with the understanding that you can not only help the guys, but you can help them the right way to give them that opportunity to get to go on and play college ball, professional, so on and so forth. So keep up the good work. Just a little background for me. I know a few of you guys here, but as you can tell, I did not grow up in North Carolina. I'm from New York originally, Long Island, New York. I didn't start playing baseball till I was 9 years old, Little League. You know, we talk about the youth today, how they're 5, 6 years old. They go from T-ball to coach pitch to all of a sudden they're playing travel ball and stuff at 8, 9, 10 years old, and it's all, you know, you have to win at all costs and so on and so forth. I mean, that goes out the window, first of all, with me, but that's a different story. But 9 years old, I started playing baseball. 9 years old, I also realized I loved playing basketball. And I put the two of them together, and that's what I did all the way up through high school. Basketball, baseball, baseball, basketball. I didn't have the luxury, or I don't know if you want to call it luxury, but the opportunity to play 12 months out of the year, which I think is a wonderful thing when I look back. You know, basketball season was basketball, baseball season was baseball. In the summertime, I did a little bit of both, just had fun. Never had an opportunity to peak too soon doing a specific thing, which that is a point that you guys have to deal with now. That's out of my realm. But I think that you see the case of burnout so much today because everybody thinks has to be done now, has to be done now. It doesn't have to be done now. Let the kids grow up, be kids, have fun, and you'll see the athletes and you'll see where they go at a certain point, and then they'll take off from there. I trust that process fully. I was always a first baseman playing baseball. Never picked up a ball. My dad didn't play baseball. He loved the game of baseball. He taught me everything about the game, but he never played the game. So there was never any pressure on me to put a ball in my hand and do the stuff I did. So basketball, as I said, loved that. That was my first love, then baseball. First baseman in baseball, loved making plays at first base, making saves for the infielders and stuff like that. Loved swinging the bat. Junior year in high school, one of our pitchers got hurt. And my coach looked at me and said, A, as you mentioned earlier, you're a good athlete. B, you're left-handed, which is kind of different in itself, as we'll talk about probably in a little bit. Why don't you try throwing or try pitching? So junior year in high school, first time I got on the mound, and I had success. I didn't have any bad habits because I didn't know any bad habits. Everything, fortunately for me, came naturally. My delivery was natural. Everything I did was natural. I had a fastball and a slow curve. I got by with that. I was able to spot my fastball, and that's going to be my first point of the talk, command. We're going to talk about velo. We know how velo is so important in the game today, utmost importance in the game today, but I'm going to show you the old school side and give you a little war on old school versus analytics as we go along. That's the other thing I want to mention. These are opinions. Anything I say here is my opinion. It's not the right opinion. It's not right. It's not wrong. It's what Bobby asked me to do. Old school. This is my thoughts and my ideas. So please, if you have an argument with me, let's bring it up in the question and answer. I'd love that. But command, I think, is the most important thing a pitcher has to have. I have to know that a specific pitcher has a pitch that he could throw at any time in any situation that he's 95% sure he could throw a strike with. For me, my blessing was a fastball down and away. I knew in my sleep I could throw that pitch down and away when I needed to. Did it get hit? Absolutely. But I knew when I needed to throw a strike, that's the one pitch I was going to throw. That's the one location I was going to throw to, and everything else was based off of that. That got me through high school. I was a 2-pitch pitcher, got me through high school. It got me drafted my senior year before I got a college scholarship offer. Figure that one out. I got drafted by the Kansas City Royals in the 16th round out of high school, and I didn't get one college scholarship offer. Explain that to me. I to this day, I don't know how the hell that happened, but I mean, that was a case in point. Fortunately, that was when Kansas City, and them going back here, Kansas City had, you might remember, they started that baseball school. Do you remember that baseball school down in Florida? So I was going to be one of the first baseball, is actual, you get signed, you go down there, and it's a baseball school. The Royals were running it. And I looked at my mom and dad, and I'm like, I ain't ready to leave the house. I mean, you talked about people here, about focusing on things you do. You want to know a crybaby? Biggest crybaby in the world. My shortstop made a throwing error. I'm looking at him, staring at him, going, what the hell's wrong with you? Umpire missed the strike zone. Dude, it's right there. What do you do? Any excuse in the world, that was me, except for myself. I never was wrong. I was always the one who had the problems. I was never one causing the problems. And that's when my career changed, but I'll get back to that in a little bit. Anyway, control. Control is velocity with control, that's even better. But I mean, control is the first point I want to make. Add and subtract. Add and subtract is another very, very important thing. If you have contrast in your pitches, I don't care if you throw 95 and 85 or you throw 82 and 72, those 10 to 12 miles an hour difference is going to wreak havoc with the hitter. You talk to the best hitters in the game today or in the game past, the toughest pitch to hit, what would you think it is? Changeup. They don't have the patience to sit back and wait on it. Now, if I would have known that 20 years prior to when I learned my changeup, I would have been that much more ahead of the game. But the point is contrast. 100, Jacob deGrom. I coached him with the Mets. I got a couple of deGrom stories. See, as I said, I get all over the place. But Jacob could throw 98 to 100 before he hurt his arm the last time. And he'll probably be able to throw 98 to 100 when he gets into full things again with Texas. But he had a 98 to 100 fastball, but his changeup was 88, 89. How would you like to be a hitter trying to be comfortable trying to hit those pitches? Not even talking about his cutter and his slider and what he has there. And he's a strike thrower on top of everything else. I mean, the guy is a quick Jacob deGrom story. So he goes to Stetson University. He went there as a shortstop. There was a summer league that is played in Florida, the Florida Collegiate League. I don't know if anybody's heard it. I coached it for 3 years there. I was Leesburg coach in 9, 10, and 11. So I watched Jacob play his first year at the Land when I was at Leesburg. He was playing shortstop. He'd come in, pitch 1 game a week. Next year, he went back to Stetson and then to DeLand, and he wanted to still play shortstop. And they said, no, you're a pitcher only. He goes, well, I'm not playing baseball. So he took that summer off. He just walked and left. But my point with him was that he was so gifted athletically, and we talked about how lucky you are if you are athletic with the understanding of pitching and or another thing. You're so ahead of everybody else in the game for that purpose. And that's what Jacob brought to the table. But he was a 9th round draft pick of the Mets. As soon as he got drafted by the Mets, he had TJ. So he sat out the year. The following year, I'm in Savannah. And I guess I got to tell my story a little bit. A lot of you guys don't know the story. I went from high school to college. After I got drafted in college, St. John's University came along and gave me my one and only college scholarship offer. So I took it. Ended up pitching with a left-hander, pretty good left-hander in the history of the game of baseball, John Franco. He's the leading lefty closer in the history of the game. Him and I came and left St. John's together. We came as freshmen. He was number 1 starter. I was number 2 starter. By junior year, he had hurt himself a little bit, so we flip-flopped. So ultimately, I ended up being a 2nd-round pick by the Twins. He ended up being a 5th-round pick by the Dodgers that year. He ended up then got traded from the Dodgers to the Reds, where he was with Pete Rose and all those guys, and that's when his closer career started taking off. Then he got traded to the Mets, and the rest was history. But after going to St. John's, Getting drafted, I played 15 years, bits and pieces in the big leagues with the Twins, the Mets, and the Red Sox. Had 176 wins in my career. Was fortunate to win a World Series MVP. Had a Cy Young Award. I accomplished a lot in the game of baseball. I was very blessed and very lucky. But all that being said, my favorite part was after my playing days. I watched my kids grow up. I got to coach my son his senior year in high school. Got to watch my girls do their own thing. My one daughter is an Olympian. My other daughter played volleyball at Winthrop University. So I had a great, a lot of athletes in the family and stuff, and got to watch them grow up, get close to them, because in baseball, as you know, you're away so long, so it takes a lot of time to catch up. But was able to, and we still talk. We have a great relationship, everything else. But then my coaching career took over. I went from high school. I did 3 years of the Florida Collegiate League. Then one spring training, I decided, you know what? I want to be a college coach. And UCF had a job open, University of Central Florida. So I inquired about it. And I realized that, when I listened to Clint talk and everybody else around here, I'm glad I didn't go the college route, just for the fact that it's not just coaching college, it's all the other stuff that goes along with it, the politicking, the raising the money. I don't know if I'd be any good. I would be any good at that. So it ended up not panning out, which, fortunate for me, it worked out. But I wanted to do something, and my wife said, the kids are out of the house, you got to do something for yourself. I can't watch you 24/7, and that was a good move too. So Eric Wedge was at the time a manager of the Cleveland Indians. And I saw him in the winter meetings, and Wedge, I told him my situation. He goes, why don't you come out to spring training? It was the first year Cleveland went to Surprise, Arizona. Was it Surprise or a good year? Good year. I said, sure. So he said, you come out for the 6 weeks. You could be my assistant. You could be my coach. I get the uniform on and stuff like that. I just don't get paid. I'm just going to go along and see. So go out there, and the very first day of camp, I run into Victor Martinez. So I'm like, and he's got like 6 Dominican clonies, the young kids behind him. I'm like, okay, I've been out of the game for a long time. Let's see how this reacts. So I went up to Victor. I said, Victor, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you, Frank Viola. And I turned around. He turned around. He went, you Frank Viola? I said, yeah. He goes, you're the man. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, in Stratomatic baseball, you're the best pitcher. It's a video. It's a game. It's just a game. But the point I'm making was, when he said that, the young Dominican kids behind, the eyes got big, and they went back, they Googled me, and they realized, okay, this guy did something in the game. And from that point, I got instant respect, which I wasn't expecting, but in the game of baseball, as you guys who have played it know, respect goes a long way. And ended up having the best 6 weeks of my life there, just working with these guys, talking to these guys, is when Cliff Lee was at his prime. It was when the Indians were really good. Led me into wanting to coach in affiliated ball. So the following year, I went to the winter meetings and went up to the Mets, and I told them I'm interested in coaching, and they said, well, why don't you come up to our suite? So I went up there, was up there for 3 hours. We just talked about baseball and stuff, and 2 days later, I get a phone call back, and they said, would you be interested in lowering yourself a little bit? And I went, what do you mean lowering myself? He goes, we have a job in Brooklyn in the New York Penn League. Would you be interested in taking that job? Hell yeah, I would. Because I did high school ball, as I said, and I liked working with those type of kids. So my career as a coach started. I went to Brooklyn the first year. I don't know if anybody's an NC State fan, but one of the first young kids I worked with Brooklyn was a kid by the name of Corey Mazzoni. He pitched at NC State, had a really good career at NC State, and besides other guys. And that just led to 8 years with the Mets, where I went from Brooklyn to Savannah, which was the South Atlantic League, for 2 years. We won a championship. Advanced from Savannah to Las Vegas, which was our AAA, did 4 years of AAA baseball. Got to work with the DeGroms and the Syndergaards and the Matts and the Seth Lugos and the Paul C. I mean, go on and on. There's so many guys in the big leagues that we had our opportunity with the Mets to have. It was, as I said, it was the greatest time of my career. And then my last year, after 4 years of Vegas, my last year, I said, I can't do the West Coast anymore. Can I come back to the East Coast? They gave me Binghamton, which was AA. And at the end of the year, that's when I got the phone call going, we're going to go another direction. That's when the analytics came into the game. And they, speaking of the Mets, and I can't answer this, I can't say this, you're a small group, so I'll just tell you what my thoughts were. I think that they thought because I was not a 100% believer in analytics at that time, that I might have been bad for the organization if I would have said something against the analytics and or their thoughts and ideas. So I think that's when they let 4 or 5 of us older school guys out of the game to bring in their people so they can do the stuff that they need to do. And we were talking to Bobby and everybody before talking here. And after watching analytics and seeing where it's gone and what it has to offer, 100% place in the game for that. What you guys bring here for the spin rates and the launch angles and all that stuff, it helps so tremendously, but it's not the end all. And that's where my old school comes into play. My argument is I had 15 years in the big leagues. My eyes could see a lot more than somebody who is just touting the paper or hasn't played the game. And I think if you could take both schools, combine them, that's when you're going to get your best baseball. And I think that's where the major league is lacking right now. I don't think they're quite there yet. I hope they get there sometime because, as I said, I think there's a place for everything we're talking about right here, but it has to be together. And right now, I think there's too much collateral damage going on amongst everybody, bad mouthing it, and so on and so forth. All right, that's my tangent on that stuff. What else did I want to talk about? My glasses broke. Pitch command control, add, subtract. Oh, I saw the other thing you were saying too when I was listening to you. How kids can, especially young kids, what they need to do to improve and to get better. I think that, and I'm talking pitching only because I was a 141 lifetime hitter, so I can't talk hitting. But as a pitcher, I think the most important thing for them to do, and as I said, this is just my opinion, long toss. I think long toss is utmost importance because it generates everything in the body. You use your lower body, you use your arms, you stretch it out, and doing it the right way. My pitching coordinator with the Mets, Ron Romanek, was a firm believer in long toss. We even put cones out from 65 to 80 to 100 to 120 to 140, and you had to go back. 5 pitches here, 5 pitches, 5 throws here, 5 there, go all the way back, and work your way back, and at 65 feet. Everything's crow hop to get your whole body into it. But at 65 feet, that's when you start mixing in your changeup and your curveball and all that other stuff with the crow hop. But the results we saw from that was like unbelievable because their arms responded really well because they were doing something on a daily basis, making it where it's an everyday thing. And once you get that comfort zone, that's when good things happen. So that's a big thing, the long toss. The other thing, and here's the real old school in me, a lot of running. Nobody runs today. Nobody runs. I'm with the High Point Rockers, and if we get 3 sprints out of a guy after they play catch before batting practice, that's a lot of running. They do the treadmill and they do all that stuff. I get that, but we used to do 16, 20, 24 pulls, every day to strengthen our lower half. It worked for us, but it's just like it doesn't have a place today. And as I said, I'm not one to change. Kids do what they do, and I'm 100% fine with that. But I don't have an. Does anybody have an answer for me why people stop running? Is there anybody that could give me an answer on that?
It depends on the kind of running.
Pole to pole. Pole to pole for a starter, sprints for a reliever.
So yeah, sprints have kind of come to the forefront because of the anaerobic component, and distance running has kind of found its way out just because of the longevity of it is pitching's very ballistic and anaerobic, so that's the reason for the transition.
Interesting. Now I at least have an answer.
You explode.
No, I had no idea. That's why. Go ahead.
You explode. Give me the ball back.
You don't run the ball over the plate.
Right. You shake you. Yeah, I'll throw that pitch. You explode. So it's not aerobically dependent, but it is very anaerobically dependent. So and that's the metabolic pathways that you use.
Okay, I'll give you that.
So that's.
I'm glad I asked. That's perfect. Now I got an answer. All right, let me ask you this then. Where's Maddie? Why? What is the thoughts and ideas of lifting heavy with your upper body? Doesn't that curtail? Doesn't strengthening take away range of motion, or cat it?
Not if it's done well. If you're strong through a full range of motion, you shouldn't be losing anything. So
You need somebody to oversee that, correct? You can't do that on your own.
You can.
And trust it?
Full range of motion presses put on, let's just say the shoulder when we're horizontally abducted going into external rotation, that is a ton of force.
Understood.
So, you don't, and I'm not a big believer of guys, I used to be, but just stopping at 90 degrees here for like a bench press, let's say to strengthen the pec, we want to be strong in a deep end range because where are we at in the throw? If we're not strong in end ranges, that's when some bad things are going to happen.
Okay. So let me ask you this then. If everybody's doing it the right way, why are we being taken out of starting pitchers after 2 or 3 times through the lineup? Is the game turning soft for a starting pitcher? Seriously.
I'm a big fan.
I averaged 120 pitches a game, boys. I see Brett, what is Snell's son with how much for the Dodgers? 200 and something. He couldn't get the Dodgers out in the World Series back in 20 after striking out the first 3 guys 6 times. They took him out because he couldn't face them. What happened to the game? What happened to the toughness of the game? I mean, old school. You see where I'm coming from?
You go throw 150 pitches, I'll be good to go.
You're the only one here that would do that, though. But I'm just, yeah, but they would not let you do that, though.
What's that?
They would not let you do that in the game. So what would your thought process be when the 4th time in a row you're dealing, and the 3rd time through the lineup they're taking you out again? What would your thought process be?
Oh, I'm pissed. From the player's side, I don't have much control over that. I can fight as much as I can. Looks at the dugout.
Doesn't it get to a point where you like to say, excuse my language, God damn it, I'm tougher than that. Give me a break. Here's the story. I look back for the first time in 37 years, 1987 World Series. By the way, 15 years, it's the only time I made the playoffs. So I won playoff. Fortunately, we won it, worked out great. But here's the thing. In the 2nd inning of Game 7, my 3rd start, I started Game 1, 4, and 7. In the 7th game, in the 2nd inning, I gave up 2 runs on 4 hits. In today's game, I would have been out. Done. I got out the end of the inning. Tom Kelly, my manager, said, dude, relax. You're throwing the ball well. I proceeded to go out and get 18 of the next 19 guys out to get us through 8 innings. And in those 6 innings, I threw 71 pitches, 68 fastballs, and was able to get 18 out of 19 guys out. Why? Because A, they believed in me, but B, in a short series, especially when you're facing the same team 3 times over, you get in those routines. And my routine, and this is one of my better stories, Game 1, I dominated, won 8 innings, pitched really well. Next game, I gave up a 3-run homer. If you look it up, Tom Lawless had the first bat toss in the history of the game. It was a great bat toss against me. And if you looked at the home run, it went that far over the fence. But then again, he only had 3 homers in his career, so more power to him. But Game 7, I go back out there, and as I said, I gave up 2 runs on 4 hits in the 2nd inning. Well, the inning ended. I came in, and I don't know if you guys remember the Metrodome if you're too young, but it was the worst indoor facility for baseball ever. And to get to the clubhouse, there were 44 steps you had to go up and down to get to the clubhouse. And at the end, I just said I had to get away from everybody, so I went into the tunnel there and just was relaxing. And one of the guys in the team who I didn't get along with came up to me. And I'm like, I just gave up 2 runs and 4 hits in Game 7. Now a guy I don't really like is coming up to me to talk to me. He knows better than to do that. He said, dude, I know we don't get along, but what happened that last half inning? I'm like, I just gave up 2 runs, of course. He goes, no, you gave up 2 runs and 4 hits on changeups. All 4 hits were off your changeup. That's why I was making the point about the fastball. 3rd time through, 15 innings against these guys prior to, I turned into a changeup thrower and got away from my fastball. Point I'm making is, of the next 6 innings, 18 of those 19, 68 out of 71 pitches were fastball. They were all looking for the changeup too. So if this guy doesn't come in and tell me what you do, I don't know what the results would have been. So it turned out that we almost became friends because of that. But I mean, that was a story that's like pretty cool. But I mean, that's the nature of the beast, and it's pretty cool. But anyway, what else was I talking about? As I said, I do go all over the place. If anybody has a question in the meantime, please don't hesitate. Long toss, legs, those.
Frank, you got a good argument for the lifting. I'll jump in with you on that one. You got a good argument on lifting.
Strong, too strong?
I mean, I'm not a huge guy on the heavy lifting part, but it is where the game has gone, and I can't argue against the longevity that comes from strength training. But Mickey Mantle didn't lift weights a lot, did he?
No.
How far did he hit?
12 ounces, a lot, 12 ounces, but
Yeah.
I knew that too, by the way. But no, I mean, everybody was different. But it's just that I always thought that anything you could save for the field, save for the field. And when I heard, and I was blessed. Here's another stat for you, which I'm very proud of, is from my first major league start on June 4th or June 6th, 1982, to September of 1994, I never missed a start. I went 12 years without missing a start.
Did you lift weights?
No, 12 ounces. That was really good at that too, by the way. But I mean, that got me by, and the running. But that worked for me.
Sure.
Back then, aches and pains, I didn't know any better. I knew I was getting paid, and I had to go out there and I had to perform. Here's another kicker while I'm on this topic, and Bobby would tell you this because he's much more modern than I. When you go into a meeting in the big league camp, especially spring training, all the coaches get together, the AA staff, the AAA staff, the big league staff, and we all go and talk. You know who the first person every morning is to talk at those meetings, at least with the Mets? The trainer. So-and-so's got he's got a hangnail today. We got to shut him down. I'm telling you, there's 3 or 4 names that come on the list before we even talk about baseball that this guy can't do this today, this guy can't do that today. We got to be really careful with this guy because it's like, wow, what happened to the toughness of the game? It's taken over, but I guess because of the monetary and everything else, there's something that be said about that. I can't talk about the monetary because I did very well, but.
Did you throw every day, like in the off season, or
No.
continuously? And
For me,
about earlier in the morning, guys have different like shut down, ramp back up.
my off season, just as an example, and I'm totally different from anybody. And I'm what I was going to say earlier too. As I said, I go all over the place. But when Bobby was throwing all those numbers out over there, I was fortunate. Do you guys bowl? Anybody bowl? You bowl, right? Are you a C bowler, or do you look at the dot and hit the dot? You're a dot guy?
Yeah.
So you need something to look. I'm a field guy. I never look at. I just throw it. Okay, but that would have killed me in my time because it's way too much to think about. When I was playing, somebody said, you're flying open. What's that mean? Try this. Okay, and it worked. I didn't know it worked, but he said, good job. And I'm like, good. Today, you have to have an explanation. You have to have a reason for everything that you do. And that would make it difficult, I'm sure, for some guys because everybody's mindsets are different. It really triggers a lot of stuff. When I coach, I couldn't tell you, I could not take a delivery and change it, alter it. I wouldn't know what the hell I'm doing. I can do this all day, the mental part, the importance of the mental part of the game. I think that's, as you all know, it's 98, 99% of the game. I could talk that all day. I'll get you through everything you need to get through. But the other stuff, I need the Ryan Dulls, I need those guys, the Matt Salters, the guys like that to tell, hey, help me, get me through this because I couldn't do that. It's a gift to be able to look at a delivery and help alter, make changes for the kid to make them better. And the argument I was going to make with you too, by the way, was I was going to say that the cutter is, I was driving here and I wanted to talk about a cutter and then I saw you talk about Bernsey and I'm like, son of a bitch. To me, a cutter is a salvage my career pitch. For a lot of guys, it is. But look what it did for him.
Right.
And there's another guy who I think made the cutter as effective as it is today for a lot, Mariano Rivera. You think about it. That's a natural, God-born, blessed cutter. He did it better than anybody until you see the numbers Burns put up, and you're right, his contract's going to be unbelievable pretty soon. But Andy Pettitte had a good cutter with the Yankees. There was not a lot of guys who had natural arm slot, makeup type, being able to get away with those pitches. I watched at the AAA level, especially in the Pacific Coast League for the 4 years, and if anybody pitched in the Pacific Coast League, that's a hitter's league, because you throw a curveball in Colorado Springs, that's all it does, it spins. It doesn't do nothing else. You have to have a sink, but you have to have a changeup. Those are the only pitches that work in those type of climates. But all of a sudden, that's when the cutter came into effect. the guy's fastball, he's losing a couple miles an hour off his fastball. So now all of a sudden you're throwing a cutter where you're just throwing it, and it's just giving you this little late break at the end, and that's an effective pitch for short term for a lot of guys. It's there, but I think what happens is, and I'm not saying that he's a special specimen, there are a couple of guys, but when guys are forced to throw the cutter and fall in love with the cutter, and then they need that fastball that they had, it's not going to be there. Because they're not going to be able to get behind the ball anymore because they're so used to going like this with the cutter. So I guess what I'm just trying to say is the cutter, I'm glad you said that because I would have been arguing all day long, but I can't argue that because that's a great spot. Some people need that to get by. Others are trying to salvage it, but if you have a fastball, and the point I'm making is if you still have a fastball, you have to utmost trust the fastball before the other stuff, before you finagle the other stuff with it, if that makes any sense. As I said, I've been all over the place. I'll think of some more, but if you have any questions in the meantime, please throw some out. I told you I'm all over the place. My wife says, God almighty. Oh, right time, right place. We talked about, where's Ryan? I had an opportunity to watch Ryan throw a couple of times last year at the end of the year at High Point. He came over to throw. And he told me a story about he was a pitcher, then they made him a knuckleballer, and now he wants to get back to pitching again. Well, that's really very, very difficult to do. And kudos to you for doing it. But my point is, everything's based on timing. You know, you have to be in the right place, right time. I talked to Bobby. Bobby said, Ryan's throwing the ball well. Well, you have to be seen then. He's going to get to a certain point. He has to be seen somewhere. Any of you guys, independent ball, I've done it for 5 years. Since 2019, High Point came into existence. I left the Mets after 18. High Point came into existence. I've been their pitching coach ever since. I'm talking now contract. My contract's up. I'm still talking to them. Hopefully want to do it for a couple more years. But I never realized the importance of what independent ball can give kids as far as an opportunity. The game today has become so fickle that if your spin rate isn't such and such, you're not going to get an opportunity. If you're this, that, the other, you're not going to get an opportunity. Well, what indie ball has given the kids an opportunity to do is to be seen again. And I think that's a wonderful thing. Because all of a sudden now, you're getting the ball on a consistent basis, and you have eyes on you. We're through, what's that TV circuit? What's this? Thank you. He knows better than I do. Flow Sports covers us, and Asia's part of that package. So we've had half a dozen guys over the last few years go to Asia because they watched them pitch here, giving them opportunities there. Mexico has been in the mix, but it's very difficult to tell the guys, you know what, why don't you go pitch in Mexico because you get lost in Mexico. And you don't get the opportunity to get back to affiliated ball very easy when you go to Mexico. There's something to think about too for those of you who are still pitching and down the line if you have any thoughts. Asia's a great avenue now. I'm talking about Taiwan, I'm talking about Korea, talking about Japan. All of them work together. And they got scouts that come to the games now. Affiliated ball's doing a lot better job as far as covering our games and coming out to watch the kids. Last year we had 11 guys get signed, well 5 of them in Mexico, but the other 6 do affiliated ball in Asia. So your career's not over if you feel like there is something left. And I guess that's trying to get some brownie points for the Atlantic League. But I mean, 5 years ago, if I would have asked you that, I would have told you there's no way in hell I would ever think about doing independent baseball. But there is a place now if you feel like you have something to prove and you haven't had closure. You know, just talk to people, ask people. We talked about Zach Venero. Zach, and he's not here to defend himself, so I'm going to be real. He pitched fantastic for us, but his only downfall is he's very slow to the plate. Has trouble holding runners on base. Well, Japan was ready to hop all over him, and they said, can we speed him up a little bit? And at the point, you don't want to finagle when somebody's throwing the ball well. So we couldn't do anything at that time. So I was just telling Bobby, hopefully now somebody here, we can help him speed up a little bit to give him that opportunity because Japan would hop all over that. You don't see too many 98-mile-an-hour guys in Japan. But that's what they're looking for now. They're looking for guys who have something different. And the game today is velocity. You mentioned it. I don't know what the hell velocity was. I was lefty. I got away with it. But you have to have velo in the game today to have any chance. And it's a shame because if you could pitch, you should be able to be given that opportunity. And that's the other thing I was going to tell you. There's two pictures I wanted to mention while I was up here. And it was in the argument about the velocity. One, am I okay time-wise?
Oh, yeah.
All right, first one. Anybody know the name Greg Maddox? Anybody know his first year and a half in the big leagues, how hard he threw? Anybody see him in his early days?
95, 98.
95 to 98. And he was getting hit all over the place. He took the off-season off. Professor Maddox came into play, realized, you know what, if I could take a little bit off, start moving the ball a little bit this way, a little bit that way, I'll be a little more successful. 350 wins later, he figured it out. Today's modern example, well, not today's modern, a couple of years ago, anybody could think about who was 95 to 98 and then changed into a complete pitcher in your time? He had a lousy year 2 years ago, didn't pitch this past year, but he's a Hall of Famer in my opinion.
Wainwright did it to an extent.
He did a little bit, but he had the curveball to go with it. I'm thinking Zach Greinke. Zach Greinke, I watched him in high school in Orlando. He was my son's best friend growing up. He threw 95 to 98 effortless. And he realized, you know what, why am I doing this to my arm when I could just throw 87, 89 with movement and be able to be successful in that regard? I mean, that son of a, he's so brazen, he's telling people what he's throwing at the end of his, a couple of years ago. But I mean, cocky is a good thing, but it's also knowing who you are. And I don't want any of you guys, I don't know if you guys throw 100, whatever the case may be, but don't get disappointed if you're not throwing it. If you know how to pitch, you can pitch. Give yourself the opportunity to showcase that part of it too. As I said, I threw, well, the gun back there was different too. It wasn't out of the hand. It was like halfway point. I was throwing like 88, 89. So I guess in today's game, maybe 90, 91 when I pitched. But as I said, 90, 91, when I learned my changeup, I was throwing my changeup 78 to 81. I was striking everybody out. There was a game in Seattle. I threw a 10-pitch inning against the Mariners, and I walked off the field after striking out the side. And my catcher's coming off the field laughing his ass off. I go, what's so funny? He goes, you realize what you just did? I said, yeah, I just struck out the side. He goes, no, you just struck out the side throwing 10 changeups. That's all I threw, 10, and I struck him out. I'm like, holy gee. But sometimes you don't realize some of the stuff you're doing, but it's just confidence. When you're going well, are you facing individuals? When I was going well, I was facing the uniform. I didn't know who the hell was hitting. If you're struggling though, you could hear that grandma behind third base yelling at you, you're a bum. But when you're pitching well, you don't hear anything. You just take the ball and you go. That's where you want to be. That's the one opportunity you want to give yourselves. If you want to give yourselves the best chance, find that focus, find that command, find that power inside of you, just to give it the best shot you can. And don't take no for an answer. There's going to be times you're going to get released. There's going to be times that people say you can't do it. Well, screw them. Try it again. If you have the confidence in yourself to do it, give it the best shot. That's how I'd like to end this. You know what? You just never know. Right place, right time. All the other stuff. The other thing about, while I'm thinking about the mental part of the game, losing control and stuff like that, you never know who's in the stands. Remember that. You never know. If you show up your shortstop after throwing error, that one scout in the stands is going to look and go, guy, he's not a team player. And that's it. That's all it takes. Be careful what you do on the field because a lot more people see it than you realize. And it goes a long way positively and a long way negatively. It's a great game. It's a great game. I have not watched a Major League game in 5 years. I have not watched a Major League game for 5 years because I don't like that they've run us old guys out of the skill. I had one dream left in my career, and I'll be perfectly honest talking to you guys. I wanted to be a big league pitching coach just for a little bit. And I had one interview with the Baltimore Orioles with Buck Showalter as manager, and I lost the job to Roger McDowell. Roger McDowell was with the Braves for all those years. Was successful with them. I lost the job. Buck Showalter gave it to Roger, not because he interviewed better than I did. It's because Roger had experience. And I played against Buck in Double-A. I've known him. I said, Buck, how do you get experience if you don't give somebody the opportunity to get experience? And I left it at that. And he called me back a couple of years later and said, you know what, it was a great point. I should have used you. But, it's over. But I like that, and I like being able to talk to the guys. You know, watching the transformation with Matty to where he was to where he became. I mean, my Lord, he was so impressive this year. But I don't want to speak for you. Maybe you can speak for yourself. You're here. But I think that you were so relaxed because you knew you had a job, you knew you had a comfort zone, that you just went out and had fun doing the stuff again. Could that have been a partial answer? But you're a competitive so-and-so. And that's the part I love about you. You know, for the first time I met you. And it sounds like you're doing the same thing here. So kudos for you, man. Keep it up. And if you ever need innings next year, you always know we're around.
Probably be out there.
Anybody else? Anything else? I hope I touched everything. I went all over the place like I told you I would. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Told you I was all over the place.
Cool.
Try putting this together right here.
The next phase, I think, in baseball player development is how do we combine the new school thought with the old school? And, you know, I think that's something for me that's really important because we want competitive people. We want people to take the ball and believe that they're the best person out there. So it's being able to combine those two and having a perfect world where those two are married. And I think that's where you're going to see the best results when it comes to player development. So really fortunate for him to come by and take the time. So, you know, now we've got a little bit of a social. If you're old enough, maybe grab a beer, hang out, ask questions. We'll be around. So thank you guys. Really appreciate you coming out. Thank you very much.